Hello and welcome back to All for United. I've messed up the intro there, so I don't think Ben the boss is going to be too happy with me, but never mind. We're here, we're live, we're all present and correct. So hopefully it'll work okay from here on in. This is your match day preview. We're going to look ahead to none other than the game on Sunday against Tottenham. 4:30 kickoff, Super Sunday. You can see it live on Sky Sports. Really looking forward to this one. I think it could be an interesting game for a lot of reasons that we'll talk about. And to talk about it, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by regular guest Mark from All for United. How you doing, Mark?
I'm all right, thank you very much. Very excited for the weekend. It's good to see you back. I hope you had a good holiday. And yeah, let's go.
Yeah, no, I've had a nice holiday, mate. Thank you for that. Yeah, good to be back and good to get back into the swing of working with you guys. Keen, I've got you on today to talk to us. You've been doing some great work with All for United, but it's the first time you've worked with me. How are you doing, bud?
I'm all good, Joe. Thanks for asking, and it's great to be back here again. And looking forward to the game now, the weekend, and let's crack on.
Yeah, brilliant, mate. I agree. And Paulie, we do loads of work together, mate. You were on the preview show last week. We've done transfer shows. But how are you doing, mate? How are you feeling ahead of the weekend?
I was on the preview show last week and we won, so I guess I have to come back. Well, and that's the vibes we need.
Yeah, well, maybe you are a good luck charm, mate. I mean, I'm glad you came forward and said, what about me? And then I thought, actually, yeah, you did it last week. The result went well, so why not have you on again? Don't forget, guys, we are live. So if you're watching on Twitch or even Facebook or Twitter, get involved, jump onto YouTube, get involved with the comments. We'll try and read out as many as possible. We're looking forward to hearing from you guys. So you can see along the banner at the bottom, we're going to look at who were the potential winner and losers from the games against Brighton, over the last weekend and the game in midweek. We're going to look at the performances of Donny van der Beek so far at United. And we're also going to obviously do what we always do and try and give our predicted 11s ahead of the weekend, which could be interesting, and also give our score predictions. But let's get on to the game. Like I said just then, Paulie, our last preview show was Brighton in the league last week, but since then we've had that game, and we had the game last night as well in the Carabao Cup. For you, in terms of the players that's played over those two games, who are the sort of winners and losers from those games? Who's really sort of staked to claim, looking at the two different teams from the two games, to maybe get into Ollie's thoughts for the weekend?
No one. I mean, the game on Saturday, no one staked to claim. Let me change that. Paul Pogba, because nobody staked a claim on Saturday. Everybody to a T, at an individual level, because I watched this game back when people were saying what was the plan and what were the tactics. The plan, when you watch it back, the plan is crystal clear. They played exactly like a Solskjaer team, the way that Solskjaer wants to play, to an individual level. Every one of them was terrible. There were so many times where they won the ball back. You saw Rashford take off to look to start a break, and the pass didn't come through. Or Nemanja Matic uncharacteristically coming out of position and Brighton exploiting the space. Every single player to a T was terrible. And then on Wednesday, we got exactly what you would expect from the second team. Donny van der Beek was good again. We'll talk about him and whether he'll be included in the team later. Paul Pogba came back, and after being absolute terrible, probably the worst I've ever seen him play for United on Saturday, looked like Paul Pogba again, which it's Brighton's second team. So let's not roll out and have a parade yet, but that's, when he's recovering from COVID and we've all said he looks like he needs a break, that's important to just be out there and look like himself again. Yeah. Juan Mata obviously was fantastic, but Juan Mata, we now have a year of evidence and everything. We know he doesn't do it in the Premier League the way he does it in the Cups. And we know Solskjaer doesn't really think of him as a Premier League player. So as good as he was, I don't think he forced himself into Solskjaer's plans. I think Solskjaer is just going to continue to think of him as a cup player.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that. And actually, we talk about winners, and that's why I said winners and losers, because, I'm looking at that weekend game like you, Paulie, and there wasn't a lot there to sort of encourage me really in terms of no one really stood up and said, look, this place is mine. I'm still waiting for Lindelof to absolutely have a beast of a game that says, look, Eric Bailly isn't better than me. I do deserve this shirt. I'm still not really seeing that, even in a couple of performances since Palace, where he's been a little bit better, but nowhere near as good. What about you, Keane? In the double header we've just had against Brighton, probably thinking more of last night's game. Was that a lot of that team were obviously the second team, most of it was, well, nearly all of it was. Was there anybody from that team who screamed to you that I should be starting on Sunday against Spurs?
Well, I have a couple. Firstly, Dean Henderson. I know this some people mightn't agree with this, but I think in the games he's coming, he's been very commanding. He's given the back four more confidence, and you can see kind of where his qualities are as a goalkeeper and why it'd be a more progressive move to have Dean Henderson in. As great as David De Gea has been, you've seen the game against Tottenham last season, though he did make a mistake in that game. In high-profile games last season, he made a mistake. So I think Dean Henderson definitely staked the claim to start on Sunday. Eric Bailly, again, was very solid again against Brighton last night, or the other day, sorry. He's definitely staked the claim to come into that team. I think Victor Lindelof, again, like, look, can you trust him? He's too soft at the back, and you have to look at it like with Harry Maguire there. You need someone there with a bit of pace beside him to kind of shore up his deficiencies in the back four. So you do need Harry Maguire there. And I think Donny van de Beek, again, yesterday showed why he should be playing, again on Sunday. Like, he's very efficient in the midfield, so he does get between the lines. He does link up the play very well. And I think in this situation, you need a player like that against Spurs who predominantly will play with a low block. And you need a player who can get between the lines, who can kind of link that play between the midfield and the attack. And I think Donny does give us that. And I think I will kind of elaborate that in kind of my starting 11 prediction later on as the reason why I kind of want him in the team. But in terms of the winners, with regards to the double header, they'd be my three. In terms of my losers, again, Victor Lindelof, again, on Saturday showed no reason to me as to why he should be starting. Dan James, again, look, he was absolutely useless yesterday as well. Again, I don't think he's a player that's going to play at a top 6 club. I think that move to Leeds is probably better suited to him, play under Bielsa, try to get more education in football. But at the moment, they'd be kind of my winners and losers at the moment.
Okay, thank you for that, Keane. Mark, I'll give you a chance to have your say on this. Anybody caught your eye over the last couple of games in particular, both on a positive and a negative?
I think I'm probably going to repeat some of what the other guys have said. One thing I disagree with is, and I know we didn't play brilliant against Brighton at the weekend, but I thought Matic actually looked the best of a bad bunch. Obviously, having the game out yesterday probably means that he's going to start at the weekend, I would have thought. Obviously, Rashford has continued to play quite well. Pogba, as Paulie said, he was. I know he only made a bit of a cameo, but he was phenomenal, really, and he really looked like his happy, good self again. So that was nice to see. Perhaps he has fully recovered and he's sort of, been working hard in training. Yeah. So I think he'll probably make an appearance too. Donny, been singing his praises for weeks now. He looks brilliant, and I really feel that this could be an opportunity, really. I know that everyone would disagree with me, but maybe playing a 4-3-3 and really sort of going for it. I think if you were to have Donny, I can't go into it too much, obviously, but if you were to have Donny, Pogba and Bruno in the middle, it'd be quite attack-minded and maybe a bit quicker paced. And obviously with Bailly, he made a phenomenal challenge the other night. He looked quick. Definitely our best 1v1 defender, and he's got to start alongside Harry. And if we've got those two there, then perhaps we could use those three in the middle.
Thanks for that, Mark. Great to see some of you getting in touch. Bailly needs to start. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. In fact, to be honest with you, I've been saying that since the start of the season. The biggest thing with Bailly is fitness and consistency and keeping him able to keep churning out the 90 minutes for me. We've got Richard's also said VDB pushing for a start. I think everyone agrees with that, mate. We're going to talk a little bit more about VDB in a little bit. Henderson has played well, but can't see David De Gea not starting at the moment. That's probably coming back from what you said, Keane. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, Henderson has been brilliant, but it would be a strange time now to start changing the keeper in the league, I would imagine, without De Gea making any mistakes. One thing I will say on that is, though, I do think David De Gea is probably one big mistake away from being really under pressure, because we've already seen with Henderson, he's come in and done a job in the couple of games that he's played. Jack Weaver's put, what are our thoughts on Wan-Bissaka this season? I don't feel like we've seen a lot of Wan-Bissaka yet this season, have we? Obviously, he missed the game against Palace at the start of the season, and then he obviously played against Brighton in the league, but he's not played the 2 Carling Cup games. I don't know. I think he's probably a little bit behind like a few of the other players at the moment with COVID and going away and having to quarantine. We've got Agallo was poor, especially if United bring in another striker. I'd be surprised if we see a lot more of Agallo, to be fair, even in the cup games. That remains to be seen. It depends what sort of business we can do until Monday. And it's Pogba's time to sit on the bench and suck it up. Players who are performing should be given the chance. So VDB for Pogba. But it's interesting because, Paulie, I'll come to you on this. I looked at Pogba when he came on last night, and actually he probably kind of enjoyed that little cameo that he had. The game was sort of 1-0. United were comfortable. He was coming on with someone like Rashford, who he knew would help make a difference. And actually, coming on for 20 minutes like that, with the pressure off him a little bit, he seemed to play with more of a smile on his face, and I think his performance benefited from it. So, if Solskjaer comes to him on Sunday and says, look, I'm going to start Van der Beek in this one, and, if we're 1-0 up or the game's level or the game's opening up and I bring you on for half an hour, that might be a role that he might thrive for a couple of games. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah, he came on and played as the number 10, and he did. He had that freedom. There was just a freedom of that line of 3 behind Rashford, of Pogba and Van de Beek and Mata, that they could just go wherever they wanted and interchange. And it was really nice. And Mata got himself a nice goal through he cut into the middle, sent it out wide to the left, and he continued his run. Fred makes a nice pass, Van de Beek with a fantastic flick, and Mata the finish. Then Pogba gets himself a nice goal. They really displayed themselves well. This is a weird year because of the fact that for a lot of reasons, but let's do the season started in September and we went right into the League Cup. Usually the season would start in August. You'd play Saturday. There'd be no game. You wouldn't play again until the following Saturday. And then you wouldn't play again until the following Saturday. And there wasn't and managers would always, maybe make one change. Maybe if an injury happened, maybe a second change, and you'd always get a press conference where people would talk about, like, Donny van de Beek probably wouldn't have seen the field for more than 35 minutes at this point in a regular season, and every press conference they'd be asking Solskjaer about him, and he'd be saying things like, in September when the Champions League starts and the League Cup starts and there's midweek games, he's going to get his opportunities. Yeah. So we're just getting them early on in the season, but what's very clear is that Solskjaer has a plan as to how he wants to do this right now. The fact that he's fully rotating his team means he's got his Premier League 11 in mind, and he's trying to get them going. Okay, they didn't hit the ground running because they didn't have a preseason. He doesn't want to just start dropping players and making changes willy-nilly. Like, these are players that at the end of last season performed, and they earned their spots in the team. So he's going to give them every single opportunity that he can to claim that spot. Now, if eventually Pogba is not performing after game after game after game, when he had less preseason than anybody else because of the COVID thing, or Bruno isn't performing game after game after game, and you have a player like Van de Beek who is knocking on the door, then he'll make a change. But until that, Van de Beek, as well as he played yesterday, it's Brighton's second team. And he didn't, what impact did he have until Pogba and Rashford came on? If I always say, like, it comes back to when Marcus Rashford got his chance against Midtjylland, he scored 2 goals. He had to start the next game again because they still had injuries, but he played against Arsenal, scored another 2 goals that Van Gaal said, I can't drop this kid. Yeah. With everybody else, it's just, you're playing well, which is nice to see, but does that mean you've overtaken the guy who's made the spot his? Like, Solskjaer is showing loyalty to his players as opposed to some other managers who you have a bad game, you get dropped. And what that does is then you get scared to have a bad game and you end up playing scared. And in the long run, that's worse. So I just don't see him making changes right now. But also, like, Paul Pogba against Jose Mourinho, like, that's a man who has an axe to grind. Yeah. Remember what he did after Mourinho got fired and then Pogba went to Stamford Bridge and what kind of game he had there right in Mourinho's backyard. Like, I don't know if that's something you want to leave on the bench.
No, yeah. That's interesting. I mean, you kind of answered this question, Paul, before I put it up. So Greg Lawson said, I guarantee Bay and Donny van der Beek will start on the bench. I think Ollie is scared to drop Pogba and Bruno, too scared to drop Harry or Victor. But like you said, Paul, I don't think it's a case of being scared. I think he's just trying to show loyalty to these players. And to back that up, Richard said here, Henderson and VDB are now providing healthy competition to establish first-team players. Good to see. And it is, that is a good thing because, like you say now, Paulie, if, at least if Pogba's having an off game for a few, if he's out of form for a few games, we've got someone brilliant we can bring in, haven't we? You know what I mean? Like Van der Beek, where before, if Pogba was off, what was the alternative? Andreas Pereira, McTominay, Fred, it just wasn't there. So at least I don't
even know if he sees them as like for like subs, because remember, he took Pogba off after 65 minutes on Saturday. He brought on Fred. He could have brought on Van der Beek. He brought on Fred.
Yeah, that's interesting. And we're still obviously waiting to find out what he really does think of Van der Beek, where he does think his strongest position is. So it'll be interesting to see. Keane, I just want to come to you now, mate, and just ask you about, moving it on a little bit. We've had, 3 games now since Crystal Palace on the first day. We had the 2 Carabao Cup games and obviously the game in the league at the weekend. Do you think we're starting to see the team improve a little bit? I know it's difficult because we've seen a mishmash of players playing together, but are we seeing a team that's starting to get up to speed a little bit more? Because obviously the claims were after that game that actually the team were lacking fitness. They were behind other teams, including Palace. Do you actually think they're getting up to speed a bit more now?
Well, I think certain players are kind of getting up to speed. So you see the likes of Mason and Marcus. I think they're 2 players who I kind of highlight who are coming up to speed. You've seen kind of last week against Luton. You've seen, obviously, again, last night when Marcus came off the bench, that he done very well. Bruno Fernandes, again, like against Brighton, you can see the contributions he had to the team that day. He done absolutely fantastic. He's coming up to speed. You've seen Eric Bailly, again. He was someone who was not in the team at the start of the season, but you've seen in his two appearances that where he can thrive in this team. I think it's kind of too early to say we're up to kind of our full potential, because I think we still have a bit to go yet. There's still levels that we can reach. You've seen last season when we came back after lockdown what levels of performance this team can reach. I don't think we're there yet, but with the more games that come, with more match fitness, more match sharpness, you will see that level of Manchester United in terms of attack and play, in terms of the sharpness in their play. It just comes with more games and more consistency. Again, look, it remains to be seen kind of what our strongest team is and kind of, where we can go. But one thing I will say, sometimes our best team isn't our strongest team. Like, you see some of our best players, who particularly individually who would be our best players. You talk the likes of Paul Pogba, you would talk the likes of maybe, Luke Shaw, Bruno Fernandes, whoever. I think with this, we have to find the right balance. I think that comes to playing more games and Ollie finding out what's the best system, what's the best players to put in there. I think with the more games coming thick and fast, we will find that out very soon.
All right, mate. Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for that, mate. Great insight there into what you think regarding fitness. Hayder's been in touch with on a Hayder. Evening, guys. Paulie, here's one for you, mate. You're looking more awake than when he spoke to you this morning. I mean, for me, mate, you're always looking fresh-faced. So
ironically, I feel way more tired.
I'm not surprised. It's been another day as a Man United supporter, and they're long days at the moment. I feel actually being a United supporter, man, just supporting any football club at the moment is quite taxing. I'm going to move on to Van de Beek now. We've touched on him a little bit in our chat so far, but I for one have been impressed with him so far. I think you made a good point, Paul. He wasn't necessarily great until some other first team players came on against Brighton last night, but actually, obviously, he came on against Palace in the first game, got his goal against Luton. I felt like he stuck out like a sore thumb in terms of one of the best players, and playing against that team that day was not great at all. That wasn't a great performance against Luton, and I thought he played quite well there. I mean, let's forget the whole Van de Beek Pogba thing. Wherever he plays, is he ready for a game on Sunday? Is it time to give him a game now? Because I'm really encouraged by his work sort of around the box, and I think definitely in his first season, I'll come to you on this first, Mark. I think definitely in his first season, he's going to be a player that opposition could struggle to get to grips with, because we've not had that kind of player for a while playing within our team, I don't feel.
No, I think you're right. I think if he can continue playing as he is, teams are going to struggle to get to grips, as you said. I agree with what you've said in the fact that he played most of the game was okay until sort of the big boys came on. But I just think it's not what he's doing on the ball necessarily, it's what he was doing off the ball as well. And I think that, the forward runs that he makes, he's always trying to look forward, the pockets that he's trying to run into. He just looks like a very intelligent player, and it was really good to see. And I think him and Mata the other night, both very intelligent players, were really sort of bouncing off each other, really, and it was great to see. I think it would be I don't think, back to one of the comments earlier, I don't think that Ollie is scared of dropping players. I think he does, we've said about this before, he does have tactics, he does play particular people for certain games, and he has got some good results because of that. So he will go who he feels is justifiable for that game. And I saw a comment about Pogba just there as well, and I feel that it's a bit unfair to just cut him out of it, and he's only had a handful of great games. I think, if I'm brutally honest, we know he's a world-class player, and we can't get rid of him. That would be stupid. You'd be making us 10 times weaker. And I can remember more good games than bad games. So I feel that's very, very unfair. But as I said to you earlier, I really want Donny to start. I think this is, now more than ever, against a side that's going to be our toughest test yet, and probably might be difficult to break down. Perhaps not. We might be able, it'd be a good. They're probably going to be quite attacking. I said to you earlier that defensively they're not particularly brilliant, but going forward they look really good. And maybe this is a game where we might come out and play a counter-attacking football. So if you've got players like Donny and Pogba and Bruno in the middle, then that might be the perfect opportunity for them to look forward and get something going.
Yeah. Paulie, I want to come to you because there was this talk in the week, wasn't there, that's since being played down, so let's not make too much of it, of this, someone who's connected to Donny obviously saying that he's not being very happy with the sort of his initiation into United, the role that he's being given, almost like a bench player, almost sort of leading being the sort of focal point of the second team, and he would have liked to have seen him play more already than he already has. But I mean, you're someone who studies tactics, mate. You study transfers and things like that. What United are doing with Donny here in terms of just sort of breaking him in gently, so to speak, is that normal, or do you think he hasn't played because it's just a case of Solskjaer's got to build that trust in him?
It's extremely normal. You're coming from a different league. You're moving to a different country. There's cultures. You've got to settle into the club, into your new home. There's so much going on in your life that if you don't have to throw him right into the deep end, why would you? But also, like, if you're Donny van de Beek or his agent, what did you expect? You have a player that plays one position and also can play another position. Well, in his one position is Bruno Fernandes, who is the player that revitalized the team last year. He's not getting dropped. In his other position, which is maybe not your stronger one, is Paul Pogba, who is the team's best player, who is certainly a better deep midfielder than Van de Beek is. He's not getting dropped. You know, those two guys are the catalyst of the team. They're your two best players. They're not going to roll out the red carpet and throw you straight in to displace their two players. They're going to work you in. And again, like, when they made these comments, it's been 3 games, and he started one of them. He's now started 2 out of 4. Like, what did you expect? Like I said earlier, if this was a regular year and we started in August, he probably wouldn't have played for more than 35 minutes. If I were his agent, what I would be concerned about is more of when he gets a chance to start. Look at the 11 guy. Look at the other 10 guys that he's starting next to, who just can't operate on the same brain waves as him, which just inhibits his play. Like, he can only be so good if no one makes the run that he sees, or if he makes the run and nobody can pick out that pass. That's what I'd be concerned about if I were his agent.
Yeah, no, I agree. But Keane, if we do want him to start at the weekend, ultimately, there will be a player that will be dropped, because I know Mark suggested there that they'll play with a midfield 3 of Van de Beek, Pogba and Bruno. We're all waiting for that day when they do that. But I can't see it being against a team at the level of Spurs. I'm not saying that Spurs are necessarily so dangerous going forward, but Mourinho is so astute tactically, and if he sees any flaws in United, he will exploit that. So I can't see United not going into that game without a real natural defensive sort of midfielder, a Matic more than likely. But, we do want to see Van de Beek. So in that case, would it be for Pogba for you, do you think, if he was to play?
Yeah, I'd actually have Van de Beek number 10. Interestingly enough, I was thinking about this today when you sent me on the topics for tonight, and I was thinking about kind of where I'd fit Van de Beek in. I'd put him in number 10. I'd actually move Bruno into the number 8 role, because in the last couple of games, what you've seen with Bruno Fernandes is that his work rate has been absolutely exceptional. And with Sporting Lisbon, he did actually excel in that number 8 role very well. And I think with his tenacity in midfield, he'd be someone who could facilitate Van de Beek to play in that number 10 role. Now, you've seen when Paul Pogba came on against Brighton for that half an hour cameo that he did have, he played in that advanced number 10 role when he came on. And I think that's somewhere where we could utilise him off the bench if, let's say, Van de Beek or Bruno comes off. Because Jose does play with a low block. I think with a player like Van de Beek, he would link up with the likes of Green, he would link up with the likes of Martial, Rashford. I think with that, I think Van de Beek does slot into that number 10 role. And look, people tend to forget about Pogba as well. Pogba's come back from COVID-19, which is a very serious thing. So he's coming back, still trying to get his fitness. He's still trying to get his sharpness back. I think with a game like Tottenham, with the way they press, especially with him playing in that number 6 role where he's predominantly nearly played alongside Matic, they're going to play Bergwijn in the hole, who's going to press very hard. And we've seen in previous games, Paul Pogba has been susceptible to getting caught by a high press in that role. So I think with this game, I think we'd be better off having him play maybe half an hour, 40 minutes in that advanced role, and then give Donny his chance to play in the number 10 role. Because one thing I'd say as well, in them 2 games Spurs played against Ajax in the Champions League, in them 2 in the semi-final in that 2 games, Van de Beek was unbelievable for Ajax in them 2 games. So I think he's a player who knows how to break that Spurs defence down. I think he'd be very integral in that number 10 role.
Interesting. Paulie, I couldn't help but notice there that you had a bit of a smile on your face during it. Was something said there that you didn't necessarily agree with, or were you just what was going on?
I just find it funny, and it's not Keane. It's the comments and the Twitter and everybody. It just seems like every United fan is always looking, or too many United fans are always just looking for a reason to drop Pogba. I mean, Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, agreed.
Terrible on Saturday. He got an assist and he got to take the penalty. And so it's, the spin zone of that you say about good players, even when they're bad, they manage to affect the game. Well, that's his man who scored the equalizer. And go watch it again. Bruno Fernandes goes and picks up his man. Brighton play a ball in, and he just goes, no, I'm not defending. He stands put. Lets Marsh just walk in and head it away. And Bruno gave the other penalty up. Like, he was so bad. And yet it's, let's drop Pogba. And like I just said, like, I just don't know. Everybody wants to do this. And I happen to agree that I think Pogba is better as the number 10 and Bruno might be better as a number 8. I just don't think Solskjaer sees it that way because he's not trying that. He does have at times Pogba push up and Bruno does drop into the midfield all the time. But if he saw Donny van de Beek as the like-for-like replacement for Pogba, now obviously if there's an injury that changes things, you need to adjust. But like in terms of we've got my full fit squad, if he saw him as the like-for-like replacement, he would have brought him on after 65 minutes on Saturday. Like that wasn't it was. The reason Pogba was taken off was partially because he was awful, but also because he doesn't have the fitness to go 90 minutes yet. So Solskjaer always knew he was going to have to take Pogba off around that time. And for as bad as he was, United had 50% of possession when Pogba was taken off. Like when they brought Fred on, from Fred coming on until they switched to a back 5, they went down to 46. Not a big drop, but a drop. And then when they went to that back 5, it went down to like 32%. So as bad as Pogba was, he was doing something right when he was in there.
Yeah, now, look, it's interesting. I think the reason that a lot of people are suggesting it'll be Van de Beek for Pogba, if anyone, is because there's this stigma at the moment, obviously, that Pogba's not ready. I think everyone's been beating that drum all of them because he had a poor start to the season. You know, people have been banging the drum that he's not ready, so I think there's that stigma. Also, Bruno's probably built up so much credit since January that obviously he's now getting away with a few poor performances, and I think that's why people are not even ready to contemplate dropping Bruno at the moment. But we've talked quite a lot there about, the team and potential changes and things. I do want to look at Tottenham because obviously they are our team on Sunday. By the way, guys, if you are watching and you're enjoying the video, do smash a like on it. Subscribe to the channel. Loads of brilliant content on this week. There'll be loads of content coming up over the weekend. And on Monday, we have a deadline day that is absolutely jam-packed. So do put a like on the video and do smash subscribe if you are new. Now, Tottenham. I don't really know what to make of Tottenham's start, to be fair. I'm just a little bit... I mean, I would imagine their fans are probably tearing their hair out as much as I'm confused. I mean, they had an awful performance on the first game of the season against Everton, obviously, which they lost. They then backed that up with a fantastic win at Southampton, which is not an easy place to go, and they won 5-2. We then saw, there's been a couple of Europa League games, mished and mashed, and League Cup games. Obviously got better at Frank and Chelsea in midweek, but obviously they had that controversial game against Newcastle. A lot of people feeling sorry for them with that, where I was taking more of the angle, actually. They should have had that game dead and buried way before the 90th minute. Anyway, they had plenty of chances, plenty of possession. Mark, first of all, you're looking at this Tottenham team and it just looks like there's turmoil sort of on and off the pitch all the time. Obviously Mourinho's doing the classic, he's falling out with players and, people, Spurs fans are criticising them for being negative. But when you look at this Tottenham team, does it remind you of a typical Mourinho team?
No, not yet. I mean, I know he's not had probably long enough there yet. He's used to coming into clubs and being provided with lots and lots of money, apart from United probably, although he did obviously spend a little bit. But he's used to coming in, spending lots and lots of money and getting the players that he wants. Now, Tottenham are not going to be that club. So I don't think it's not a typical Mourinho team at all. You never know what you're going to get with Tottenham, especially at the moment. As you've said, they were poor first game, good second game. They still conceded 2 goals and then they got the better of Chelsea. But I don't want to think about them necessarily. I think, we should be focusing on us and for once starting really well on the front foot and maybe going against them. Do you know what I mean? And put them on the back foot. I don't know enough about Spurs to be, and as you said, they're so inconsistent. It's very difficult to know who exactly is going to turn up. But they have got some dangerous people on the team. And we do need to be very wary of that, obviously, with the defensive problems we've had recently. I really hope Bailly comes in and really sort of stakes his claim, really, but you just don't know. But yeah, we just need to go in and be quick and get forward as quick as possible, and do all the right things in order to put them on the back foot. They're not good defensively, and we have got the players to break them down and score goals. I know we haven't seen too much of that so far, but we all are very much aware of how devastating we can be. So I think it's it's very much up in the air, and either one of them could win it quite easily. Depends who turns up.
I mean, Paulie, I'll come to you. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think they're a dangerous team, Tottenham. I think they're creating a lot of negativity themselves at the moment. The manager through this, I think Mourinho's doing this. He's developing this classic siege mentality that he's done at all his clubs through whatever reason, whether it be something to do with refereeing decisions, whether it be something to do with players not getting players in. Just this idea of getting his team to feel like it's them against the world, if you know what I mean. And this season, we've seen he's got gripes over referee calls. He's got, probably rightly so, got gripes over scheduling. I mean, they played on, was it Tuesday evening, and they're playing again tonight in the Europa League. They've got a massive game against the weekend. But actually, everything points towards the United win, because obviously they have injuries and they're going to have to rotate, and players are going to be a little bit more tired come the weekend. But I think this is when we have to be wary of Jose Mourinho, because we've seen time and time again over his managerial career, he's usually got a plan for these situations and these type of games. Do you agree? Can't hear you, mate. Are you on mute?
You're on mute, buddy.
Yeah, the good news for United is Spurs kind of played Team 1A on Tuesday. It wasn't an academy team, which is probably what you or I would have done, considering they had to play 2 days later in the Europa League. And they've got their first team out there right now. They're putting a beating on Maccabi Haifa, but they're out there, and that's good news for United. United's first team has played 2 matches, and Rashford has played 2 matches plus 30 minutes. Bruno has played 2 matches plus 12 minutes. Tottenham's first team has played 3, 4, 5, 5, 6 matches already. So hopefully you get them off. You get them a little tired, and United, who are still not firing on all cylinders, but hopefully they can build up to that. I just see Mourinho. I see him approaching this the way, in a classic Mourinho sense. He's going to sit back. He's going to do exactly what he did that first game after the restart for 2 reasons. One is because they are tired, and he doesn't want his team running around like crazy. They won't be able to sustain themselves. But 2 is that's where we struggle. Like, we struggle against teams that sit back and sit deep. And I said this when we played them in December, we're catching Tottenham at the right time, because Jose was just hired, and he was doing the whole thing that he does whenever he gets hired. I'm a new man, new guy. Like, it's not going to be negative. Like, we're going to attack. And he knew, the pragmatic Jose knew, if you just sit back, United are screwed. But he was like, but it's my 3rd game in charge. I can't just sit back. Then everybody's going to be like, oh, it's same old Jose. Yeah. And so he had his team playing a little bit more adventurous, and we picked them apart. Well, we didn't pick them apart. Rashford got a few chances. He hit the bar. Gazaniga made an unbelievable save, but we got the job done. And defensively, we were amazing that game. But then post-lockdown, I mean, he came out there and he parked the bus in front of his own goal. They got a breakdown from us. Shaw, Rashford, miscommunication. The ball goes the other way. Fred has a million chances to pull Bergwijn down, and he doesn't. De Gea spills the shot. And they parked. I mean, he made 2 changes in that game. So, like, we don't know what Spurs are going to give you, because, all right, Dele Alli is out of favor with him. Tanguy and Ndombele, is he back in favor with Jose? Was he ever in favor, or is he going to go with Schulberg and he loves Harry Winks, so maybe he goes with that? And I think he sets up very negative, and it's on us to go and pick them apart to get the win.
Yeah, I know. I agree. And that's sort of, and I'll come to you in a bit on this, Mark, because that sort of comes back round to your point of playing Van der Beek, Pogba, and Bruno in midfield. That's maybe one way we could get away with, because we are coming up against a tired team. And when you're up against a tired team, what is the last thing you want to play against? And that is attacking intent with pace, obviously. So that's where your argument about playing the three on Sunday may actually, hold up, because would there be a need for a DM if they're going to play so deep as Paul is maybe suggesting, obviously being aware of the counter-attack? I just want to come to you though, Keane, first, because obviously Paulie touched on that Steve Bergwijn moment there, and obviously the way that led to a goal. And Mourinho, I mean, that was the last player I was looking at in that game, because if I remember, Harry Kane was playing, albeit just back from an injury. I think Heung-min Son had just come back from injury, but he was playing in that game. But it was actually Steve Bergwijn who he saw something in his pace, and up against the likes of Maguire and Shaw. And like I said before, once again, it's a bit of a tactical masterstroke for him. So, is that something that we need to be wary of at the weekend? And if we are wary of it, how do we combat that Bergwijn pace on that left-hand side, given that it's unlikely that he'll drop Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw?
So, I suppose you combat it with basically playing Eric Bailly, that right side centre-back, so he can't come inside and do exploit us with his pace. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, as well at right back, needs to be on his game. I know he's just back, but if he's on his game, Bergwijn is taken out of the equation. But one thing I will say is, will Bergwijn play down the left-hand side? Because if there's talks that Son might be fit, if he's fit, you might see Bergwijn play in the hole in the number 10, because Jose does fancy Lucas Moura as well on the right-hand side, and obviously Dele Alli's out of favour. And with them playing a counter-attacking game, and the way Bergwijn ran at our players in the last game, that's where Jose might put him, because Jose does fancy him down in that role. So if he plays there, if he plays down the hole, Matic needs to play hole in midfield, because we need to have a good kind of balance there. But if Jose kind of plays that 4-3-3 and he kind of plays three defensive midfielders across that three, as Mark alluded to earlier, it'd be good to see kind of that midfield three of Van der Beek, Pogba and Bruno, if that's the way Jose sets up.
Yeah, no, thank you. And Mark, I'll come to you. So like I say, if we're looking at this Tottenham schedule at the moment, that it's been so jam-packed. I think someone mentioned it in the comments, 8 games in 3 days. 3 games in 8 days. 8 games in 3 days would be impressive, wouldn't it? 3 games in 8 days, is that probably why you're looking to sort of pack the team with more attacking players, because you actually think that they won't have the energy to really get at us, or get the energy and the will to get at us early on?
Yeah, I mean, 8 games in 3 days would have been wonderful, wouldn't it? But not quite. Yeah, I think it's, what? This is a wonderful problem to have, isn't it? When you've got 4 or 5 midfielders that is giving you a bit of a headache in choice. Now, I appreciate you either go very defensive or you go attacking, but it's still a wonderful thing to have, yeah? As you just said, and I said earlier, I think it would be a potential opportunity, a risk, absolutely. But I think you're absolutely right. Mourinho is going to want his team to sit back. And we brought in someone like Donny to be able to unlock lesser teams and Tottenham, essentially, because his team is the only team within the big 6 that tend to sit back a bit more. Everyone else seems to come at us a bit more, and it's easier to play against, and that's why he's got a better record, against the bigger 6. So it's who knows, but I really believe that at some point he's gonna need to have this opportunity and to work out exactly where he's going to play Donny, how he's going to play Donny, and the different combinations within that midfield. And I think if Tottenham are going to sit back, even if he doesn't start with those 3 and he starts with Matic, just to be a little bit, careful and make sure the defensive duties are being done correctly, then, you know, if it is a cagey game, we're not really having any luck, then and 60 minutes, bring on Donny or whoever it is that misses out, probably Pogba, I would say, at the moment. I think Bergwijn last year in June, when we last played them, he obviously scored against us, didn't he? But he played on the right, didn't he?
Yeah, sorry.
And obviously Luke Shaw was playing that game. On the back of what's been said before, hopefully Bailly plays and we might have a defender that will be better one-on-one and with a bit of pace. Luke Shaw can't play as badly as he did in that first half of that game. I wouldn't play Brandon there. Defensively, he's not as good. Even if we'd bought in Telles already and he was eligible, if we get him, obviously, and he was eligible for this game, I'd still play Luke because defensively he's far better. And I think that we that's who he'll go with. We do need to be careful. But yeah, again, it's anyone's guess. This is probably the first time when I'm not really sure or couldn't tell you that these people are nailed on to start, you know. But I guess, you know, when Sunday comes, we'll see the team sheet. But I think it would be a great opportunity to get Donny on, maybe even starting, and really try to unlock them. I'm not saying that Bruno and Pogba can't do that. But we've seen time and time again against lesser teams and Tottenham and maybe one or two others that we can't unlock them. And that's what Donny's been brought in for.
Yeah, and I think there's no doubt about it. Pace has gone out of that team as well with obviously the injury to Heung-min Son. Paulie, just before we move on to doing, because I do want to move on because we got to do score predictions, we got to do our team predictions. You know, again, like I've said before, you know, tactically you're great, mate. You've done a lot of work on like tactical analysis and things like that. You know, you study how teams play. What do you make of this Mourinho Tottenham? Is it a new Mourinho, or are you seeing the exact same football played by Tottenham that you've seen by every team that Mourinho's coached, sort of thing? Or do you think it's a bit different? Because I read out there at the start, I really don't know what to make of their season, to be fair. I just really don't know. I thought they were really good against, obviously, Southampton. They were awful against Everton. But yeah, I thought they played quite well, especially in the second half against Chelsea in midweek. I don't actually know what to make of them. Are you seeing anything different to what I'm missing?
No, it's a great question. What are they? They do play. They do play a lot like a Mourinho team. And the thing is, like, has Mourinho gotten a chance to really stamp his fingerprints all over them? You know, you say, like Mark will say, well, he's not going to get the checkbook at Tottenham that he's gotten in the past at Real Madrid and United and Chelsea. And to me, that's what scares me the most, because I think that's actually when Mourinho's at his best. He said in an interview back, this is going back to like his Porto days, you know, what kind of players do I want? Players who have no money, players who haven't won anything. You know, those are the kind of players that his mantra of, listen to me, I am a winner, you listen to me, we will win, that works. You know, that didn't work at Real Madrid when he walked into a dressing room that's filled with World Cup winners and champions. They hadn't won the Champions League yet, but that didn't work at Chelsea, where he walks into a dressing room with a bunch of guys who did just win the Champions League. And then with Paul Pogba, who's coming off winning the World Cup, like, these guys have won. Tottenham haven't. You know, he can really walk into Tottenham and say to them, you guys have almost gotten there. Like, you're good, you're talented, but you need that next level, and I can get you to that next level, and they'll buy in. Yeah. We thought that Dele Alli, when Mourinho came, that Dele Alli was the perfect Mourinho player, the same way that Lingard thrived under Mourinho. We thought Dele Alli would, and he got off to a great start. But now he's the one that's somehow fallen out. You know, Pierre Hjulberg is like the quintessential Mourinho player. He just makes that midfield more mediocre and average and physical. But that's how Mourinho plays. Like, and yeah, they were poor against Everton. They got a good win against Southampton. That's the thing. Mourinho he comes up with big games when you don't expect him to, and then he lays an egg when you don't expect him to. Yeah. That Newcastle game, 1-0, and Mourinho goes, all right, let's lock it up at 1-0. Well, that's classic Mourinho. We'll see out that 1-0 win, but there was no reason to do that. Tottenham could have blown the doors off of them, and And they were never like in that surefire, we're killing this game off mode. And given the new handball laws, which we now see have come to rear their ugly head, but even based on the day before what happened at Everton, like anything can happen, with VAR and the handballs and any little like anything can happen. One goal is not something you want to say, like, let's kill this, especially because Tottenham really could have killed the game off. They just came back in the second half and he didn't, his fullbacks played more withdrawn. Like they just didn't go, they weren't playing as hard as they were in the first half in terms of getting forward. Is that because they had 2 midweek games? Maybe, but it makes it hard to really figure out what this Tottenham team is.
Yeah. No, fantastic, mate. I totally agree with you. I suppose I feel a bit clearer now because I've just been so confused by them at the start of the season. Keane, it's your first time on the show. In fact, we've only done 2 of these, but Mark and Paulie were on last week. So I am going to come to you first for your team prediction for the weekend. So you can give us some groundbreaking news, mate. It's your chance to get the soundbite of the night. Give us, you can give us a formation, give us your 11, and also give us a score prediction as well, mate, at the end of it, if that's all right.
Yeah, no bother. So I suppose, look, David De Gea is going to start in goal. Personally, I'd like to see Henderson there, but David De Gea is going to start. Aaron Wan-Bissaka at right back. Again, like, look, undisputed, he's the best right back in the club. That's a given. He's going to play. I'm going to go Eric Bailly at centre back with Harry Maguire. Again, like that partnership will work, and we do need to play it sooner rather than later. Again, Luke Shaw at left back. Again, that's an undisputed position. He's proven time and again that he can do a job there. And look, he has to redeem himself after the last time he played Spurs. Yeah. My midfield 3, I've gone with Matic, Bruno, and Van de Beek. Again, I think Pogba would be very good off the bench against Spurs. You've seen what he done the last time. The passes he was picking out for Rashford. I think a player like him off the bench would be a good variety. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that midfield 3. I'd like to see Van de Beek gets first start because, again, he was devastating against Spurs in the Champions League. And again, I've gone with Greenwood, Martial, and Rashford up top. Okay. And my score prediction, I'm going to go 2-0 United.
And have you got a first goal scorer for us, mate? I'll just go to ask you that.
I'll go first goal scorer. I'm going to go Bruno Fernandes penalty, just to wind up.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? There's so many penalties in the Premier League this year. We were getting so much, everyone was taking it out of us last year. But actually, in the Premiership as a whole, in the Premier League as a whole this year, there's been so many so far. If you're watching now, guys, if you do want to give us your team prediction, your score prediction, do let us know. Patrick said De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire, Shaw, Matic, Pogba, Fernandes, Rashford, Mata, Martial. Now, I always find it interesting when we do these team predictions because are you predicting what you think Solskjaer might do, or are you giving the 11 that you would play? I don't mind how you do it. I think because what I would play probably would be different to what I think Solskjaer is going to play, and that's always interesting. Mata I thought was brilliant in midweek, but I just think with the game time that he's had so far, I think it's very unlikely that he's going to play midweek again weekend, although I wouldn't be disappointed to see him play there, but I think we will start to see Greenwood take a more regular spot now, obviously, pending whether we bring any players in before the weekend. And that remains to be seen. But obviously, I don't think if we do bring anyone in before Sunday, they won't be ready to start anyway. So, Mark, I'll come to you next, mate. Can you give me your team prediction and followed by a score prediction, please?
Now, unfortunately, firstly, I'm going to tell you some good news. Liverpool have been knocked out. Now, I appreciate if Arsenal got through, it wouldn't have been great either, but that would have been, it's better news that they go through. Anyway, my team is exactly the same as Keane's. So I'm sorry to disappoint you. If I was to choose the team, I would actually put Henderson in goal. And I really want to start with Donny, Pogba, as I've already said, and Bruno midfield. But I think Ollie will put out the team exactly what Keane said. Now, for me, I think it's going to be 2-1 to us. You've always got to believe that we're going to win. So 2-1, I think it's going to be a bit cagey. So I can't see it be a high scoring game. And my first goal scorer will be Donny.
Okay. We heard it here first, guys. Get a bet on that, Mark. I don't know what your score prediction normally like, mate. Are you got a good track record or?
Fantastic.
Yeah, well, you would say that, wouldn't you? Paulie, I'm going to come to you next. Look, I've just had this thought come into my head about this idea of Steve Bergwijn plays. And say, for example, to try and counteract that, Ollie does play Bailly, but he does this thing where if Bergwijn starts on the right, he puts Bailly as left side as centre-back. And as we know, during games, wingers will swap sides if they get no joy. And we have seen United swap their centre-backs over as well. I mean, could you see a situation where if Bailly plays and Bergwijn starts on the left, they play him as the right centre-back, and if vice versa, they actually, when they switch their wingers, they switch their centre-backs as well? I mean, it would be, I just get this comical thought in my head, but is there a potential they could do that? Or actually, some people have suggested today or over the last couple of days that United, instead of Solskjaer having this conundrum about whether to play Bailly or Lindelof, loyalty against actual true form. What about playing a back five, potentially another centre-back to sort of cover any threat of pace? But then again, you were talking earlier about Spurs playing deep, but then again, if they do play deep, there'll be a threat on the counter, so pace will become a thing. I don't know, mate. How do you see United lining up to counteract the main threats that Tottenham will pose?
Remember how you just said, I love when I ask for the 11s and we get people and I want to know if this is what they think Solskjaer is going to do or this is what they were doing. I like them because I always just want to know, like, what are you thinking? Like, Solskjaer is one of the most predictable people out there. He does not make changes for the sake of making changes. So, I don't mean to laugh at your idea, but no, they're not going to change the center backs. Like, yes, Bergwijn has pace, but we have faced players with pace plenty of times before. That doesn't mean we drop Luke Shaw, and it doesn't mean we drop Harry Maguire. Like, we still had the third best defense in the league last year, despite playing plenty of players who had pace. And so, like, the beauty of Solskjaer is he figures out ways to hide our deficiencies. Like, when he took over, he inherited a team that was the defense was terrible, and they were very susceptible to counterattacks. Nothing sums that up more than the two matches against Wolves in the league and the FA Cup, where we pummeled them, and then they picked us apart on the counter. Last year, second week of the season, we go to Molineux. We don't give Wolves any counters. Solskjaer solved that problem, and that is what you have to be aware of that with Tottenham. So he is going to go with that first choice 11 that we saw all through Project Restart. We also David De Gea might be one mistake away from David De Gea mistake away from Dean Henderson. That mistake hasn't come yet. So it's going to be De Gea. It's going to be Wan-Bissaka. I personally would go to Eric Bailly. But if he didn't drop Lindelof after that game against Crystal Palace, he's not going to drop him after he was decent against Brighton and then actually very good on Wednesday. Yeah. Not to mention, Victor Lindelof kept Harry Kane in his pocket twice last season. He took him completely out of the game. And that's the other thing is, 2 games against Spurs, we gave them nothing. Like, their first game, their goal came on some poor individual defending from Fred and a fantastic piece of skill by Dele Alli. And the second game was a breakdown in 3 different areas, and then David De Gea with an absolute howler. Yeah. Not absolute howler, but a howler. Yeah. And those are the 2 goals that Tottenham have scored. So there's no reason that, it ain't broke, and he's not going to fix it. So he's not going to fix it because it ain't broke. So he's going to keep Matic in there because you have to be wary of those counterattacks. Pogba's going to retain his spot in the team because, I've been saying this whole hour, I don't know if he sees Van de Beek as a like-for-like sub for him. And I don't know if he ever wants to drop Bruno Fernandes back into that number 8 role. He did it in Bruno's first game because he only had Fred and Andreas Pereira to choose from, and that partnership doesn't work. And he got criticized for it, let's not forget, even though it probably saved them the game. Up front, he's going to go with Martial, and he's going to go with Rashford. Donny van de Beek deserves to play. To answer a question from earlier this hour, 100% deserves to play. Yeah. That doesn't mean he should. I'd like to have a team of 20 guys who deserve to play, and then we'll pick 11. I do, however, think that maybe he goes, and this is what I would do, and I think maybe it's got a chance. He goes to Van de Beek instead of Greenwood, because Greenwood has become very predictable, and he's hasn't really had an impact in a lot of games recently. He's become predictable, especially against these teams that sit deep. He just gets that ball on the right side and does a couple of step overs, but he's trying to get it onto his left and shoot from the top of the box. He's not getting into the box and getting great chances. He's not adding anything else in play. And when you look at Tottenham, first of all, you look at the way Juan Mata played on Wednesday, playing as that right winger who came in deep, and then came into the middle, or he came out into the midfield to progress the ball. If you play a Van de Beek there and Bruno Fernandes drops deep, the problem when Bruno Fernandes drops deep is, who is he passing to now? Now Bruno's not up front. So if you have a Van de Beek there who moves into the middle and is very good at getting himself in position for these line-breaking passes, that solves that issue. But you also look at Tottenham. They have new players in Doherty and Reguilon who like to bomb forward as fullbacks. The knock on Reguilon is that he's very good getting forward, could be a little susceptible at the back. So is Mason Greenwood the kind of guy, the player to exploit that space? I don't know. But Van de Beek and Bruno Fernandes, they have the brains to go and exploit that space. And maybe if you put the two of them together, they're not natural wingers, but you could exploit that space. So that would be the 11 that I go with. The score prediction, like I said last week, whenever I get too enthusiastic, it usually ends up being bad. And I went for a win last week and I almost lost it. So I'm going to go 1-1 draw and hope that I am wrong.
Hope that smashing. Now, thank you for that, Paulie. So there you have it. I mean, another option there, like you said, Paulie. We're just trying to find. We've started the show looking at ways of getting Van de Beek in the team. You've given another option there. Greg agrees with you. He said that's what he was thinking, but more withdrawn on the right. Maybe look. There's so many options available. I just think, yes, we've had a lot of criticism about our signings this summer, but actually, Van de Beek actually creates depth in a lot of different positions in a weird sort of way. He's almost three players in one, if you know what I mean, when you're looking at rotating. Just some of your comments before we finish up. I think Spurs are there for the beating. The only thing in our favour is that Spurs have 3 games in 8 days. I think there's more in our favour than that, to be fair. I think player for player, I think we probably are a better side, but obviously, that will obviously count against them. Martial will turn up for us on Sunday. Would be nice to see, because I think he's had quite a slow start to the season as well. We've got a stroke of genius from Fernandes and Pogba will unlock them, going for a 1-0 United win. Keep that positivity coming. It's been great to hear from you tonight, guys, and I just want to finish off by saying a massive thank you to the guys who joined me. Paulie, you're on here regular, mate, and we're going to have you on again in the future, I'm sure. Thanks for coming on, mate.
No problem. Just got to wake myself up.
Yeah, you're doing well, mate. I don't know what Hayden's on about. Again, mate, I know you're getting a bit tired tonight, mate. You've had a long day. You've busy life at the moment, but thanks for taking the time and coming on.
How dare you? I know I look very tired, you bastard. No, thanks, mate. Always a pleasure. Been good fun, so thank you very much.
No, yeah, you're looking on point though, mate, as always as well. Keane, made your debut tonight, mate, and it was a cracking debut. Love working with you, mate. Great to get your thoughts and hope to have you on again in the future.
Yeah, 100%. Enjoyed being on again tonight, though. It was fantastic to talk about the game, and let's hope we get a positive result Sunday.
Yeah, let's start looking towards the game on Sunday. I know we've got a transfer deadline day coming up on Monday that's sort of taking everyone's focus at the moment, but that will be what it is. And obviously the most important thing for United, whether they make 1 new signing, no new signings, or 5 new signings, ultimately is another 3 points in the league on Sunday. So let's focus that positivity, get behind the team. And like I said, if you've enjoyed the video, guys, smash a like on it, subscribe to the channel. There's so much great content coming up over the next couple of days, over the weekend. And on Monday, we're going to have some great content on deadline day. So keep your eyes peeled for that. It promises to be a busy few days at Man United. So I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about. But for now, thanks very much. And we'll see you next Thursday for the next match day preview. Thank you.